After my baby's funeral, my Emile said, "At least we don't have to raise another weak one like you." She handed me back the tiny sweater I'd knitted. "Bury this with your pathetic dreams." I couldn't even cry. I just whispered, "I'll remember this day for the rest of your life." 3 years later, a single package arrived that made her collapse. I'm 33 now. I lost my only child 3 years ago. A daughter. Her name was June. She was born too early and lived for 7 days. 7 days I wouldn't trade for anything. 7 days I will never stop seeing in my head. But this isn't just about losing my baby. This is about what happened after. What my mother-in-law did to me in the moments when I was already shattered. And how I kept going when nobody expected me to. Maybe not even me. I guess I should start from the beginning. I met my ex-husband, Aaron, in college. He was smart, quiet, driven. I came from a house where no one ever listened, where meals were cold and words were sharp. Aaron came from a family that looked like it came from a catalog. His mom, Denise, hosted garden parties and had a wall calendar filled with brunches and charity events. His dad had died when Aaron was in high school, but they talked about him like a saint. Everything about them seemed held together, neat. The first time I met Denise, she smiled at me and called me dear but looked me up and down in a way that made me feel like I had crumbs on my shirt. She gave me a scarf that Christmas told me, "This color will brighten your tired eyes." I laughed it off. That was my mistake. When we got engaged, she didn't say congratulations. She just said, "You'll need to learn how to host now. Our family entertains a lot." When we got married, her toast included the line, "Some women are born to lead. Some are born to follow." Rachel seems eager to follow, and that's good for Aaron. Aaron didn't say anything. He never did when it came to her. She was the kind of woman who used politeness like a knife, always smiling while cutting you down. It was hard to explain to people. When I found out I was pregnant, I cried. I was scared, but also hopeful. I wanted this. I wanted someone to love and protect the way I was never protected. Aaron seemed happy, if a bit distant. Denise said, "I hope you're not planning to use this as an excuse to stop working." I laughed again. My stomach turned when I did. That became normal with her. My pregnancy was rough. I had high blood pressure that got worse fast. By the time I hit 30 weeks, I was in the hospital more often than not. I couldn't sleep. My legs were always swollen. I knitted a little yellow sweater while I was on bed rest. I don't know why. I just needed something to hold on to, something small and soft and hopeful. At 34 weeks, I passed out alone in the kitchen. Aaron was at work. I hit my head on the tile. I remember blood in the sink and trying to get my phone with shaking hands. June came that night in an emergency C-section. She was 3.2 pounds. They took her away so fast I barely got to touch her. She made it a week. The NICU nurses were kind. They let me sit next to her for hours, just staring. I sang to her. I prayed, even though I hadn't believed in God in years. I told her she could stay if she wanted, but I understood if she couldn't. Her lungs gave out on day 7. They tried everything. I held her when her heart stopped. No one tells you what it's like to feel a baby's chest stop moving in your arms. It's so quiet, like the whole world pauses. Aaron stood in the corner. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just stood there like it was happening on a screen. The funeral was small. Just us and a few people from Aaron's family, one friend of mine from college. My own mom didn't come. She said funerals are for the living, and what's the point if there wasn't time to bond anyway? I remember sitting in the front row, holding that tiny yellow sweater I'd made. I was going to place it with her in the casket. Something warm. Something from me. Denise came over after the service. Her heels clicked on the concrete like gunshots. She wore a long black coat and red lipstick. Not a smudge out of place. She stood next to me. I looked up. My face was swollen from crying. She wasn't crying at all. She said, "At least we don't have to raise another weak one like you." Then she shoved the sweater into my hands. Shoved it. Like trash. "Bury this with your pathetic dreams," she said. And she turned and walked to her car. Aaron didn't say anything. He didn't see it, I think.
Or he pretended not to.
I didn't cry. I felt blank, like my body had shut down. But I remember saying, so quiet I'm not sure she heard, "I'll remember this day for the rest of your life." I wish I could say I left then. I didn't. I stayed another year. I tried to recover. I went to therapy, mostly sat in silence. I went back to work part-time. I volunteered with NICU parents because I couldn't stand being away from the world my daughter had existed in. Aaron and I stopped talking about June. He wouldn't say her name. He buried himself in work. Denise kept visiting like nothing had happened. She brought vitamin pills and told me I looked pale. She commented on how quiet the house was and told me I should at least get a pet. I miscarried a second pregnancy 10 months later. I didn't tell anyone I was pregnant. I just started bleeding in the shower. I sat on the tile floor for a long time, hugging my knees. Then I cleaned up and made dinner. That night I decided I was done. I packed 2 suitcases, left a note, and moved in with a woman I met through the NICU volunteer program. Teresa. She had lost a child too. Her son had died of SIDS. She let me stay on her couch. We didn't talk much at first. She understood that kind of silence. Aaron never called. Never emailed. Nothing. Like I'd been erased. Denise sent one card. A Christmas card the next year. It was a photo card of her, Aaron, his new girlfriend, and a puppy. She wrote, "Some families are meant to grow." I burned the card. But I saved the ashes in a little tin box. And I still had the sweater. 3 years passed. I started over. I worked at a bookstore. I got a tiny studio apartment. I grew close to Teresa. We were different, but connected by grief. She became the only person I let see me break. Then last winter, I got a message on Facebook from a woman I didn't recognize. Her name was Carla. She said she used to clean Denise's house and remembered me. She said she had something I might want to know. We met in a cafe. She was jumpy, eyes darting. She told me Denise had recently been diagnosed with early-stage dementia. Carla was helping clean out the attic when she found a sealed box. Denise told her to burn it. But Carla got curious and opened it. Inside were baby things. June's original birth certificate. NICU hospital bracelets. The yellow sweater. The one I had in my hand that day at the funeral. The one she gave back to me with those words. But somehow, she had it all this time. Carla said she didn't know what it meant, but it didn't feel right. She gave me the box. I sat with that box all night. I opened it slowly. There were pictures I'd never seen. Someone had taken pictures in the hospital. There was a little footprint card. A nurse's note saying June liked to grasp fingers when she was calm. And the sweater, folded neatly, like it mattered to her. Like she kept it for a reason. I didn't know if it was guilt or control or something sicker. I didn't cry. I felt this cold clarity settle over me. So I packed it up again. A different box. I included the sweater. And a letter. I wrote everything. The funeral, her words, what they did to me. The miscarried baby, the quiet that followed. At the end, I wrote, "You were right. I will remember that day for the rest of your life." I mailed it to her address. No return label, just the box. A week later, I got a text from Aaron. All it said was, "What the hell did you send my mom?" I didn't reply, but Carla reached out again. She told me Denise had collapsed in her kitchen after opening the box. The doctor said it might have triggered a neurological episode. Her dementia progressed faster after that. She doesn't speak now. She doesn't recognize Aaron anymore. I didn't expect that. I don't feel proud. But I don't feel bad either. I think some things live inside a person until they rot. Maybe all I did was turn the mirror. I'm still here. After the box incident, I expected silence. I thought Denise would fade into that care home, forgotten. I figured Aaron would go back to pretending I never existed. But 2 weeks after the text, someone knocked on my door. It was Aaron. I hadn't seen him in over 2 years. He looked thinner. His hair was grayer at the sides. Same stiff posture, like he was holding his breath. I didn't let him in. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. He asked me what I was trying to do. Said his mother was barely functioning and that whatever was in that box had broken her. He asked if I was happy now. I asked him if he'd ever once thought about what it did to me.
What she said to me.
At my baby's funeral. He said, "She's sick now. What's the point of punishing someone who won't even remember?" That was the last thing he said before I turned around and went back inside. I didn't tell Teresa. I just sat in the dark for a long time. I couldn't stop thinking about how Aaron still couldn't say June's name. Not once. A few days later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. The paper was fancy, like it came from a wedding invitation set. It was from Aaron's new girlfriend, Marissa. She wrote that she understood I had gone through a hard time and that she was sorry for my loss. But she also said it was unhealthy to cling to past grief and lash out at those who had moved forward. She ended it by asking me not to contact their family again.
I didn't reply.
I just stared at those words. Their family. I wanted to rip it up. Instead, I kept it. 3 weeks later, Carla messaged me again. She said she didn't work for Denise anymore. She'd been fired. She didn't say why, but she was shaken. Said Aaron had accused her of lying. That she had put ideas in my head. That she'd made things worse. Then she told me something that stopped my breath. She said she had taken photos of the items in the box before giving them to me. She said she had emailed herself a copy of one document that didn't make sense, June's hospital bill. Except it wasn't in my name. It was in Denise's. I didn't understand at first. But then she said something that made my chest go cold. She listed herself as the primary caregiver.
Not you.
I went in my closet and pulled out the box. I hadn't looked at it again since sending the package. I dug through the papers. I hadn't noticed before. Maybe I didn't want to. On the top corner of the bill, next to Guardian, was Denise's full name. Not mine. Not Aaron's. I don't know how she did it.
I don't know why.
I remembered being in the NICU, watching nurses talk to her like she was the mother. One of them handed her a feeding schedule once.
I was too numb to care back then.
Now I cared.
A lot.
I reached out to the hospital's records department. I told them I needed copies of everything from June's time in care. They said it would take a few weeks. I waited. When the envelope came, I took it straight to Teresa's kitchen table and opened it. There it was. Multiple entries. Notes where Denise had signed off on medical instructions. Documents where she'd marked herself as grandmother and legal guardian. There was no court order. No consent from me. And no record of my name except one. My signature on the birth certificate. Teresa looked at me and said, "This wasn't just cruelty. This was control." I thought about every visit Denise made to the hospital. Every time she talked over me. Every time she told nurses I was tired, or fragile, or needed rest. They believed her. I think part of me had shut all of that out. I called a lawyer. Not because I wanted money. I wanted to know if what she did was even legal. It wasn't. At least, not if it was done without consent.
And I hadn't signed a damn thing.
The lawyer said the statute of limitations on medical fraud hadn't run out. I could file. But I'd need to be ready for what would come with it, the attention, the family backlash, the digging. Teresa asked me what I really wanted. I said I didn't know. Not yet. But then I got another package. This one didn't come to my apartment. It came to the bookstore where I work. It was a padded envelope with no return name. Inside was a USB drive. And a note. "I thought you deserved to see what she kept." There was no name. I went home that night and opened the files on Teresa's laptop. There were dozens of videos. Home camera footage. Denise's hallway. Living room. One from her study. Most were silent. But one file, labeled June_last_day, MOV, had sound. It was a video from the morning of June's funeral. Denise was standing in her kitchen, holding the yellow sweater. She was on the phone. And I swear to God, she laughed. She said, "She'll never recover from this. It'll break her. That's what girls like her are made for, breaking." I couldn't breathe. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched that video over and over. I wanted to forget it, but I knew I never would. Everything inside me shifted. I wasn't just grieving anymore. Something deeper had opened. And I knew, finally, what I needed to do. After watching that video, I felt like something inside me broke, but not in the way she wanted. It didn't make me weaker. It made me clear. She had planned it. Or maybe not all of it. Maybe she didn't plan for June to die, but she liked that I was broken. She wanted it. She took pleasure in it. That laugh, that sentence, it played in my head for days. I didn't go to work the next day. I couldn't focus. I kept thinking about that envelope. Who sent it? Why now? Why to my work address? I called Carla, but her number was disconnected. I messaged her on Facebook. No response. I checked again later, and her profile was gone. I didn't have anyone else to ask. Teresa told me to sit with it. Don't move yet, she said. You're angry. Don't move in anger. But I wasn't sure if it was anger. It was something else. Cold. Steady. Then something strange happened. About a week later, I got an email from someone named Thomas. He said he was Carla's brother. He told me she died. Car crash. 2 nights after I got the package. He didn't blame me, but he wanted to know why she'd been helping me. Said she had started acting nervous, like she was being watched. Said she told him, if anything happens to me, the truth's in the USB. I read that line over and over. I didn't cry. I think I was too shocked. I told Teresa. She asked me one thing. Do you believe it was an accident? I didn't know how to answer. That week, I looked at the files again. Slower this time. I saw something I missed before. One of the videos had Denise sitting at her desk, holding some papers. She was talking to someone off camera. I turned the volume up. She said, if Rachel ever tries to come back, we'll say she abandoned the child. I'll have records. She won't know what's hers and what's mine. It hit me in the chest. She was preparing for something. She had been planning long before June died. She was making a story where I was unstable, unfit. That explained so much. Why the nurses listened to her. Why I wasn't included in decisions. Why I felt invisible in my own child's care. And worse, it meant she never saw June as mine. She saw her as hers. A second chance. A do-over. I needed more than the videos. I reached out to the hospital. Again. I asked if anyone else had visited June in the NICU, besides me and Aaron. They said they had logs. I requested copies. A week later, I got a printed log in the mail. Most of it was expected. My name, Aaron's. But then one stood out. Marissa, Aaron's new girlfriend. She visited the NICU. Twice. Before June died. We weren't even divorced yet. I checked the dates. Both visits happened when I was sedated. After my C-section. That's when something cracked. He brought her there. He let her see my daughter. My dying daughter. I wanted to scream. Instead, I made copies of everything. The visit log. The videos. The billing records. The recorded line from Denise about breaking me. Then, I did something I didn't expect myself to do. I contacted Aaron's older cousin, Patrick. We'd never been close, but he was the only one in that family who'd ever spoken to me like a person. He picked up on the second ring. He didn't say hello. He said, I've been waiting for this call. He told me things I didn't know. Denise had done something similar once before. Not with a baby, but with Aaron's sister. Years ago. She'd manipulated custody during a divorce. Made her own daughter look unstable. Patrick had always suspected she'd do it again. He told me Aaron's silence wasn't just grief. He'd been raised to obey her, to fold into her decisions, to treat her word like law. Then, he said something I'll never forget. She didn't just try to erase you. She tried to own your grief. He offered to testify. If it ever came to that, I thanked him. The next day, I received an email from Marissa. Not a message, an email. She said she knew I'd been digging. That she didn't want trouble. That mistakes were made. But that she loved Aaron, and we all process grief in different ways. She ended with, if you care about Aaron's peace, let the past stay buried. I forwarded it to my lawyer. He didn't respond for 2 days. Then he called. He said we had enough to build a case. Fraud, misrepresentation, possible emotional abuse. He asked me one last time if I was sure. And for the first time in 3 years, I said yes without shaking. Then the next morning I got one more surprise. A voicemail. From a number I didn't recognize. The voice was slow, rough, older, familiar. It was Denise. Only 4 words. Just 4. And then silence. She said, "I remember. You won." After I heard that voicemail, I sat on the floor for almost an hour, just listening to those 4 words on loop. I remember. You won. It didn't feel like a victory.
Not yet.
But it felt like a shift. Like a wall I'd been pushing against for years had finally started to crack. The lawyer moved fast after that. I handed him everything. The hospital records, the footage, the emails, the visit logs, the voicemail. He said what Denise had done, posing as a legal guardian, signing medical documents, blocking access, wasn't just unethical. It was fraud. And even if she was no longer competent enough to stand trial, the paper trail still spoke for her. And Aaron. That's where it got more complicated. There were signs he knew. The NICU visits. Bringing Marissa while I was sedated. The fact that he never said my daughter's name after the funeral. Not once. He might not have held the knife, but he handed it to her. My lawyer filed a civil case. Quietly. We weren't going to press criminal charges. Denise wasn't in any state to stand. But we were going to expose what happened.
Publicly.
We were going to make sure it was recorded on court documents forever. When Aaron got served, he tried to call. I didn't answer. He left 3 voicemails. The third one broke something in me. He said, "I did what I had to. My mom was protecting us. You weren't strong enough." That's when I knew. He believed it. All along. That I was weak. That I deserved it. That my grief was too big and too messy. That my pain didn't matter as much as his mother's pride. I had the court date set for 6 weeks out. I didn't want money. I just wanted truth. But truth has a cost. 2 weeks before the hearing, Marissa posted a photo on her Instagram. Her, Aaron, and a little boy, maybe 9 months old, labeled Family Day. Someone tagged me anonymously. I stared at that child's face, at Aaron's smile, at the life he moved into without ever saying goodbye to the one he left behind. I took the photo to my lawyer. He said, "This changes everything." Because now it wasn't just about what they did to me. It was about what they were willing to do again. And I wasn't going to let that happen. The day of the hearing, I walked in with Teresa by my side and Patrick behind me. Aaron showed up alone. He looked tired. He didn't meet my eyes. The judge was calm but serious. My lawyer presented the case cleanly. Records showing Denise signed over medical decisions she had no right to make, copies of the hospital bills in her name, proof that I had been bypassed as my own daughter's mother. Then came the footage. The video of Denise saying I was meant to break. Her calling June another weak one. Her planning how to erase me. There was no sound in the courtroom except the click of the video ending. Aaron shifted in his seat.
Still didn't look at me.
Then the judge asked if I wanted to speak. I stood. I didn't prepare a speech. I just told the truth. I didn't lose my daughter once. I lost her over and over. In the hospital, when I wasn't allowed to be her mother. At the funeral, when my grief was mocked. In my home, when my husband never said her name again. And for years after, in silence. I paused. I didn't come here for revenge. I came here because her life mattered. And the truth should too. Then I sat back down. The judge ruled in my favor. The court issued a formal statement of record that Denise fraudulently signed documents that stripped me of my rights. That Aaron and Marissa were complicit in preventing me from accessing my child's records. That June's death was not caused by them, but her memory had been stolen by their choices. Denise's name was marked in court as having committed deliberate maternal interference resulting in emotional harm. I know it won't mean much to her now. Her mind is mostly gone. But it meant something to me. Aaron was ordered to issue a written apology and attend a mandatory parenting ethics course. A small thing, but in public record. Forever. After the hearing, he approached me outside. He looked different. Smaller. He said, "I thought you'd just let it go." I said, "That was your first mistake." Then I walked away. A few months later, I got a letter. From Patrick. He told me Denise had been moved to a facility out of state. Private. Expensive. Aaron couldn't afford it, but Marissa's parents were paying. Apparently, she was starting to forget who Aaron was. But one thing kept coming up in her confused rambling. "She keeps asking for the yellow sweater," he wrote. She says, "Where's the sweater? I need to give it back." She won't rest without it. I folded the letter and placed it in the tin box with the ashes of that Christmas card. Let her look for it. Let her remember. I still have the sweater. I keep it in a drawer, wrapped in soft cloth. I live differently now. I still work at the bookstore. I still see Teresa every Sunday. We light a candle for June and for her son. And I've started something new, a group for NICU moms who lost their children and felt erased by the system. We talk. We grieve out loud. We say their names. And now finally so do I. Her name was June. I say to anyone who asks. She lived 7 days. And she mattered. I thought revenge would feel loud. But it doesn't. It feels quiet. Still. It feels like truth. It feels like finally breathing all the way in.